the disc in his hand.
See that pass back to Turton after Naden pulled it out of the sand, trying to go for that continuation down the line. Nugent reacts so well. You see how pumped up this Great Britain line are. I think it's fair to say the Great Britain O-line have had a torrid week. They've really struggled with not connecting. The system's just not quite clicking into place the way they've practiced and trained. Made some adjustments ahead of that French game yesterday, and they came into this final on the back of that success. Push to Via, been marked by Amelia Kenneth. Spins the disc across to the far side of the field.
Little collision upfield with the two defenders.
Dumanskaya strikes back, collects the disc, and a quick dump-off pass to Isiliev. Scuba to Norikov. Norikov looking down the field. Pustavaya there again. Russians running out of ideas a little bit now. Dumanskaya makes herself available and just outside the end zone in the front corner. Pustavaya into the end zone. Kenneth bids, but ends up flat on the floor, watching the Russians celebrate. Good, clean offense from both these sides, but the Russians using the finer percentages there.
Well, that was great defense from Great Britain, really squeezing those channels for the superstars of the Russian mixed line. I don't think I've seen necessarily anyone push them quite that hard into those tiny, teeny tiny channels, and that's a credit to the athleticism of the GB women. Kenneth, having played in Royam with the senior women's side, she posted up on social media yesterday a nice little memory of a beautiful shot of her laying out full stretch, the ribbon in the hair fluttering in the breeze. But as we said, Tom, still conditions allowing both sides to just put up whatever discs they need to make their offense happen. Still on serve, Russians lead 2-1.
Brilliant pull from Russia. Back of the end zone. Lees opens up the arm, spins the disc across the side, chasing down his Great Britain, going to be in the end zone. Oh, what a takedown. Oh, it's popped out of the sand. A ground strip. Turnover, it just could not contain it. Tom Perry sprinting the full length of the field for the Tom Lees disc.
Oh, and that is bitterly disappointing for Tom Perry. Really great rundown, and you see why he's made this GB squad. Look at the rapidity with which that man moves on the sand. But shame to see the ground strip, but great spirit. Other players might have tried to cluster that, but at the elite level, such great composure to just be like, no, I'm going to go play some defense. Let's have another shot. So Russian D-line opportunity to break, Tom.
Hands low, keeping that disc off the sand. Good, intelligent cut there from Vasiliev. Deep disc, shooting low, caught by Tomikov, and into the end zone. The Russians break at the first opportunity. Nothing Nugent could do about the disc. Tomikov bid hard on that, but continuation cuts from the Russians.
Yeah, it was interesting to see Nugent try and get that bid. Didn't really have position to get the much-needed inside channel. His matchup, a fairly significant height over him. Let's have another look at that big disc from Vasiliev, the player who doesn't actually live in Russia anymore, but always finds himself coming back. Actually played the World Championships in Cincinnati last year with GOAT of Canada, who had a fabulous social media presence supporting their Commonwealth compatriots. But he's now obviously the other side, hoping that the Queen's men and women will fall foul.
A Commonwealth link for Vasiliev.
Well, he was playing with the Canadians. He was playing with the Canadians. So now he's, as I say, he's moved away from the Russian scene, but always finds himself coming back. Such a tight-knit community, the Russians. We see the pool roll out of bounds. Tom Lees bringing it back to the center of the field.
Just to clarify for those of you a little unfamiliar with the sport, if the disc lands out of bounds, and that includes landing on the tape, that's out of bounds as well, then the players can bring the disc all the way up to the brick mark, which is 15 meters in front of the end zone. If it lands inbounds and rolls out, it can only be brought to the front line. That's what Tom Lees has done there, quickly dishing it to Pope. Pope to Mchale, and Mchale to Lees. Lees down the line to Bruin.
The other captain from this GB side, captain connection there.
Naden with it now. Lee's darting backwards to take the dump pass, trying to go up the line again. Mchale available, but a quick dob away from the 20 shirt of Rudametkin. The Russian defense creating all sorts of problems for Great Britain. Tom Lees was darting backwards and forwards, trying to get himself free, but the Russians guarding the right spaces well here. Pace from Rudametkin as he sprints forward, dishes that disc back in the swing side and across to the far side of the field. Shubanyev, high disc, Pope smacks that to the sand. Turnover back. This Great Britain offensive line having run really hard there, now got to play some offense.
Well, that is their speciality. I'd like to see GB maybe not juking so much in the sand. They have to remember they are on sand. You've just got to run and reset, but that's a fabulous play from the Russian defense and punch it in.
The connections between the Great Britain men there. Mchale was the target. The disc from Lees out in front of him too far, and the Russians reacting first. This is a crushing start from the team in blue. 2 breaks they lead, and that 4-1 start.
Yeah, that's a 3-point roll for Russia. Early stages of this semi-final. Great Britain, we talked about them very briefly being quite a young program. Some of the long-time players who have played in the juniors division now coming up. Lots of caps senior playing wise, but in terms of the leadership and the management, we're seeing some new faces coming into those roles. And so this is a crucial moment in terms of your team management and your mentality in this game. You're down 2 breaks to a side of formidable Russian players. They came out looking strong to Great Britain, but now they need to just hold this offense as we see a D-line coming out to play some offense. Change of legs, allowing the O-line to maybe have a chat and think, just cool their heels a little bit, allow their big players from the D-line to go to work. Turton reaches for the layout bid, but not able to come up with a good stop.
The disc from Helen Roberts a little bit too far down the line. The lanky, rangy figure of Will Rowledge coming to mark. What can he do to stop the 18 shirt of Vasilyev? Nice pass to the center of the field. Parshakova with it. Rowledge bids. Vasilyev with it once more. Into the end zone. Big layout from the Russians. They are continuing to pile on the pressure against this Great Britain side. 3 breaks in a row and a 5-1 lead.
Yeah, the Russians are really pushing GB. You saw the layout attempt from Turton there. Such a fantastic player, European Youth Player of the Year. A big matchup, certainly across the field, but great play from the Russians. Happy to just sit, hold the disc, wait for the option, and eventually separation found, and I believe that's an open side pass. Great speed, attack across the sand. We see there just a little bit of lack of attention from Turton. But both teams, they're really pushing each other to use the finer elements of their offense, the full stretch of each other. But I'm not sure we're going to see Great Britain get many breaks back off the Russians. And that's now 4 points on the trot.
Yes, no turns from the Russians apart from the D-line turning over once in the previous point. And really impressive to see the Russians, the statistics so far. 5 points, and the 10 stats, assists and scores have gone to 10 different players on this Russian line. 5 different scorers, 5 different assists. So strength in depth in this Russian mixed side being shown early on in this game. We're 6 points in, and GB up against it.
We talked, Tom, about the fact in the previous game that the big superstar, biggest name players, most of them leaving the World and European Championship women's side to go and play a different challenge here on the sand in the mixed division. And so many faces on the Russian mixed team are just so dominant, such experience.
Pope's disc was just too far ahead of Turton. This is bad from Great Britain. They're making mistakes and they cannot afford to do that with this Russian side in the form that they're in at the moment.
Well, these two teams have met before. Great Britain meeting the Russians and losing 13-6 yesterday.
Tomikov spins around into that end zone. What the acceleration there. Fast cut from Ekaterina Blazhko. Just dropped the shoulder, accelerated towards this near side. Great Britain looking flat-footed. That's 4 breaks in a row. Second assist for Tomikov.
And there we see such a great display of one of the real benefits of the Russian side, just knowing how to move on this surface, outclassing opponents with their turning form, and just so rapid. They're great on grass, don't get me wrong, don't underestimate the Russians on any surface, but you just see the little turn hit and this cut up field just moves so quickly, eats up the space across the sand, and nothing that the captain Naden can do but just look in dismay.
Well, the Great Britain O-line had not set out to play this much defense.
Well, as an O-line, that's not your job. Your job is to just go and punch it in.
Conor Mchale watches the disc roll out to the back of the end zone. He's going to bring it forward to the front line.
One of the Clapham players on this side. Mchale had tried to sort of puncture into the elite scene for Great Britain for a while. He played actually well with Ragnarok in Cincinnati. Nice to see him finally getting the credit he deserves. Very talented young player.
Contact made, uncontested. That throw from Nugent into the sand. Great Britain using a split stack here, 2 players on either side of the field, but the straight up force in the Russians really taking away the first choice option for Mchale. And then Great Britain have already done a lot of running by the time they get back to Nugent, and they're in that swing position. Mchale trying to get the handlers initiating pressure, but straight away, quick reaction from the big Russian number 20. Bashing that to the ground. Ruda Metkin with another block. Zhubanyev. Inside channel. Oh, it's so easy for the Russians at the moment. They take the half to 1 with a run of 5 breaks. This is brutal for Great Britain. The Russians are dialed in and they've got their foot on the gas, and you cannot see any let up at the moment.
Great Britain are just getting punched in the face right now by the Russians. You literally cannot say anything but that. It seems that, though, they're just sort of not playing with the confidence they need to. We've seen them play so much better in this tournament previously. Their game against Portugal, which they sort of nearly gave away at the end. But this is great marking. Really hard job asked of Conor Mchale there. Isolated player, one-on-one in the end zone. Lovely inside shot that nearly grazes the sand on its way through into the hands of the intended target, the number 28. I think that is. No, not 28. Can't quite read the on the replay on my screen there, but difficult job asked. Did a really good effort, but right now GB needs to come up with something magical to get their heads back in this game. And this is how you test a program. Put them 7-1 behind. Maybe it's too far out of reach at this point, Tom, but how you now recover from the bleeding, they've been hemorrhaging all over the sand right now. This is where you build your program. This is where you really grit, you use your determination. We're seeing a hybrid line now. Come on, we've got, for the right-hand side for the Russians, currently on your screen, we have Vasilyev with disc in hand in the red cap. One of my new friends, Pavel Eremin, has been giving me the inside track very kindly for his mixed side. The Russians, often known as a bit of a black box to us ultimate journalists. Not easiest to get the information off of them consistently. Obviously difficult with the language barriers to get the survey info out. but a hybrid line from GB. You see Turton, Rowledge, I think Roberts from the D line, with 2 O-line handlers to steady the ship in the form of Lees and Nugent.
Slightly different look from Great Britain. Rowledge and Roberts on the far side of the field. But look at that big poach, trying to take away the first options. It's going to have to swing back again. Have no longer got the poach in there, but Russians being smart, and the athleticism from these players is a really impressive thing. Rowledge, Lees cuts forward. Turton's available at the back. Nugent darting around, trying to find something forward for Turton to throw at. Rowledge, Lees available. Turton takes the mark to the ground with a big fake. Rowledge jabs underneath. Roberts grabs. Better from Great Britain, but the Russians are chomping around every single pass. And that is only the second offensive point scored. They need more, but now the Great Britain D-line get a chance to have a look at Russians' offense.
Yeah, much better play from Great Britain, and we said they needed to play with a little bit more confidence. That was much better, really trusting each other. Great faking from Turton, fakes that inside, really sells the mark and allows herself the easy reset to Rowledge, who opens up the arm, and that's a tasty little put from him. Giant wingspan has Rowledge, big guy, 6'3", 6'4". Actually, amongst his family, Tom, he's one of the little ones.
Is he? Hard to believe.
Yeah, the Rowledge family, lovely people. Had the pleasure of meeting his mum, who's recently retired. Congratulations, Mummy Rowledge. And his younger sister playing for the same university program. I'm sure she'll be watching the stream. Hello to Emma and all the family. So the Russians, back to the races, Tom.
Blazko. Pustavaya, Dumanskaya lurks in the end zone, reaches up. Oh, it's just so easy for them. That connection that's been such a big part of the women's program at the top level of Russian Ultimate for so long. Sasha Pustavaya, Dina Dumanskaya, they connect again. They are both the stats leaders for the Russian side, and you can just see why.
It's a beautiful thing to behold, Tom. And intriguing choice from Great Britain, having Saskia Kantorovich, probably the smallest player for the GB side, versus one of the biggest women
in Ultimate.
In the international scene. Dina Dumanskaya, a target and a half, and this is just a beautiful release. That's textbook. Just sails it up, beautiful roll carve, arcing directly into the path of the intended target. Oh, that's just plain nice.
To be clear, Dina Dumanskaya wasn't the target because of the height mismatch.
Oh, no.
She was the target from the word go.
I think if you put a 6'6" man on Dina Dumanskaya, she's still going to be the target.
Great Britain's offense trying to find something here. Lee's trying to find a space clear. Pope running on the high stall count. Naden available. Great Britain in their own end zone. Russians chomping around for the Callahan at the moment. They're on the shoulder on every single cut. The pass is needing to be perfect. Lee's cutting deep. Pope available. That's a great cut from Pope, and well exploited. Long disc from Naden finds her. Lee's cutting back into that dump position. Cut's looking a little bit tired now. Naden, the captain, runs forward into the end zone, and there it goes. The spike from Tom Perry in the end zone. Great Britain scoring their last 2 offensive points. Much better in this second half, but they're going to have to put some defense on that actually affects the Russian offense to have any impact on the rest of this game.
At this point, if you're the Russian side, you're happy to let GB throw some nice offense at you, maybe not be quite so hard, but that was, as you said, when they were in Callahan territory, the Russians were on the shoulder of every single pass, and initially GB looked really clustered around the disc. Once they started stretching out the field, getting deeper cuts, that really nice disc up to Cat Pope. Funny to see Tom Lees not go for the end zone initially. That's sort of one of his fortes, but eventually they do find it. Nice composure from GB, but as you say, this D-line with it all to do, goodness gracious me, currently sitting 5 breaks down, 5-point deficit, 8-3 the Russians lead.
Mchale, and a contact made. And the complaint from Rolich is Terekov has cut almost directly into Rolich and then called a foul on it. That's the complaint. So it's been retracted. And the two of them resolved that well. I can understand why Rolich was quite so upset by that foul call.
Well, he's a very physical defender, is Rolich, but...
So now we've got to work out where the stall was when that foul happened. Pushtovaya has it. I think the first pass had already gone out to the wing, and Pushtovaya looking for something down the line. Wolverson cuts around. Reaching up into the sky is Norikov. It's going to be high. What a grab there from Ilisiev. Pushtovaya lurking deep. She's coming underneath now and collects. Rolich bids. Cannot get it, but there's lots of space now for Terekov into the end zone. A high grab. The highest of fingertip grabs. No chance at all for Great Britain. Rolich calling it down. I don't think...
We'll get another look at that one on a slow-mo replay. It was interesting to see that there was a second hand that came towards the outstretched, laying out, reaching grab hand. That one comes down. That is very close. There's a flurry of sand in the air, so I can understand why there'd be the ask. But obviously, you know, it's the player who caught the disc. We're going to trust in there being a spirited player.
So it's the question mark about whether it was a ground strip or not. So no question that he had control of the disc. But if you then hit the ground and release the disc, then the catch, it's as though the catch never happened. But
that's a smart play. You see him move that second hand. As he contacts the ground, he gets his other offhand involved just to really secure that. That's what you have to do when you make that contact. But obviously, in these all-important games, fine to ask the question, but the play will stand. Score for Russia.
They lead this one 9-3. Racing away. The other semi-final, which is Germany versus Portugal.
And you're currently craning your neck to try and see the action for that one, but we won't spoil it for you. If you want to follow the action here live in Portimao, go to live.ebuc2019.org. Volunteer staff and tournament staff doing a fantastic job of making sure that one is nicely updated for you as we see Turton underneath the disc.
Turton opens up the arm, Bruin the target. There's going to be Russian pressure rising against this, and a touch from the top of the stack, completely clean bid from the big number 5, Tomikov.
Oh, Tomnikov just chomping up the yards on Bruin. The disc hung for a very long time. Perhaps if it had been a wee bit longer, you saw Bruin have to sort of slow down to try and make the play. Keeps on his feet, but just enough work from Petr Tomnikov to keep it out of contention.
Vasiliev sends the arm. It's exactly the same combination of players, but the other way around. And Tomnikov jinks away, finds a bit of extra space. Bruin couldn't react. It was over his head. And the Russians, within 3 of the victory, they are in dominant form at the moment, Hannah. 10-3 up.
Yeah, Bruin doing really all he could be asked to do in that situation. Had to try and go up early, try and bait his defender, his mark into doing much the same, and perhaps not able to come down with that, but that's just too much of a seasoned read from Petr Tomnikov. Had the height advantage. So a bit more information about this Russian side. They claim to have no big superstars, which I find an interesting call, but they are really
obviously a lie.
Well, they do, Tom, but you can see them. They really work. As with all of the Russian teams here at this Beach Championship, they really work as a unit. They're such a team, fantastic discipline. But one of the other reasons, not the main reason, of course, but one of the reasons why some of the superstar women have come across this team is to play with their partners. And so we'll find a little bit more about those, maybe identify some honey passes down the pitch. GB on the disc.
Turton to Mchale. Mchale looks deep to Roberts. Roberts is lurking in the end zone. There's going to be some Russian pressure here, but Roberts gets it right and reaches up to take that disc down from Mchale. Big cut from Blaszko. Big defense from Blaszko, just could not quite get there.
That is lovely, calm grabbing from Helen Roberts. Coming out of Reading Mix, she played in Cincinnati last year. Really athletic presence on the field. Just nice and calm, easy does it. Good dish from Conor McHale. Unusual seeing him in the handler set, but he's handling for this GB side, making use of the fact that he's a left-handed thrower, opening up parts of the pitch that other players might not be able to. And there we go, really holds the line well. Textbook start from Roberts.
Dr. Helen Roberts.
Dr. Helen Roberts.
Dr. Helen
yes,
Roberts.
Indeed, yes, indeed. So, we're probably, I think, without wanting to invoke the commentator's curse too hard, Tom, I think we're going to see the Russians advance to fight for that gold medal. So let's see what the GBD line can do. We see Declan Isles there, one of the mighty Hucks club players who came out to the European Beach Club Championships last October.
It's so unusual to see Sasha Pustovaya on the field and not collecting the first pass of the game. Dina Dumanskaya opens up the arm this time. Her partner in crime, the target. And Katanovic for the... we said she was a big height mismatch on Dumanskaya. Not quite so big a height mismatch on Pustovaya, but she still got up there early. Brilliant read from the young 34 shirt for Great Britain.
Well, this is Kantarovic's first appearance on the sand, playing for Bristol Women's Ultimate. Really, really rapid. Great to see her. She's got great build, such lightness.
So first chance for this D-line to score against the Russians. Rolich looking downfield for an option. Floats it forward. That's nice to Isles. Isles sends it. She's chasing it down. Saskia's going to have to read this hard. Oh, into the back corner. Great Britain's D-line have got to break back.
Oh, and that is fabulous work. Saskia Kantorovic gets the double happiness bookends. The D springing out of the sand to block away from a player much taller than her. And then just, to be honest, I think there was a little bit of a lack of respect there from the Russian defender women. Both of them really poaching under, allowing that deep space. And what a shot from Declan Isles. He's going to be delighted with that one, getting another stat on the board. The 5'10" sports therapist, hometown of Devon, big junior program over in Devon, churning out the players for the GB side. He started playing at Arthur Terrace Hall with Arctic Badgers, or Arctic Ultimate, and played back, as you said, in the junior program, GB under-20s, and his sporting hero is Tiger Woods. His first sport being golf, but he broke his back playing that, so he's going to try and have a softer surface on the sand.
Pustovaya opens up the arm. Dumanskaya underneath it. Amelia Kenneth there as well. It's drifting towards the sideline. Dumanskaya's just got the read on it all the way in, and a goal. You just can't argue with 6'3" of Russian, can you?
Well, we saw a 6'3" of Great Britain player trying to come in there, Will Rolich, with an attempt at the bid. Very good to see him do that very cleanly with lots of momentum behind him. Kenneth doing everything she could to try and box out Dumanskaya, but flipping heck, you just can't take it away from her. She's got such experience. We saw her open up the arm the previous point. Actually sits more comfortably in the handler role, would you believe, Tom? Unusual to see her upfield. People kind of say, well, why is she in the back? With that wingspan and that height, she should be pure receiver, but clearly doing that job effectively for this mixed side.
Yeah, it was something that we saw it last year in Cincinnati. Dina and Sasha playing those two key handler roles on the Brilliance offensive line. But then here with the mixed team, she can take that deeper position on the field. She's such a threat with her height, but then if she does get the disc, 10 meters out, she's got all the throws in the toolbox, and that's a huge pull to Tom Lees catching, and no first pass to Nugent as the zone from Russia come down, stifling pressure, but the disc from Lees across to Naden, and the first sign of breeze this morning here on the beaches in Portimao. That's nice to Nugent. The first pass to Turton should have gone a bit quicker. Sorry, it's Perry on that far wing. Naden, Perry makes the continuation cut, and they find him.
Yeah, I'm
across
not
to
sure I
Turton.
like this zone look from Russia. They really have the match for match pretty well. This plays right into the hands of GB.
Perry had a second grab at that one. Nugent cutting now. The Russians have gone to a one-on-one, but there's a mismatch somewhere. I think it was Lees that had some space. Into the front corner of the end zone, not quite in yet. Turton at the back. Lees looking for options. It's a distant force. Nugent on the far side. Perry with the disc now. Now it's across to Nugent. Turton in the front corner. Naden running across. Options running out for Great Britain. Great faking and movement. The rolling curve from Lees is just not the disc at the last gasp. They couldn't put it in.
And see, this is why I'm not sure the zone look is the best. We've talked a lot about the quality of the Russian offense, but that defense, that person defense was really, really good in the red zone. And we see a timeout call to get a little bit of a gas back. Toli Vasilyev calling that for his team, but that was really nice. I really liked the way oftentimes so close to the end zone, you'll see the mark on the disc come so really close in, try and hustle, try and get a hand block, try and get a piece of stuff. But that really exposes the underside of your force. It really allows players to pop it underneath. Great recatch there from Tom Perry. We just saw, who has a great fan set at home, comes from a Frisbee family, brothers Jake and George also playing. But to move back to what I was saying before, that looser mark really getting in the way of more of the upfield, rather than trying to take away the shot itself from the handler's reaching palm, but just getting in the way, confusing the options, not allowing GB to really see the space. Whereas playing against that zone, they were just really happy to move it around. They've got plenty of experience as players. Nice and calm, takes a little bit of the pressure off. I think when you give GB that space, they are definitely good enough to move it through. It's when they're under the physical pressure of the Russians, that's when they're turning over.
Yeah, the athleticism of this Russian side seems to be one of their real strong points. They've beaten Great Britain with the legs on both offense and defense.
Well, I mean, this second half, though, Tom, you look at the stats, we've seen plenty of trading and offensive holds. One break apiece for the second half, but the story of this game was definitely the absolutely mammoth roll from the D-line of the Russians early doors. And the same thing happened in their previous matchup.
Yes, you can't lose the half 7-1 and expect to have a good chance in the second half. Tom Lee's marking now. Eremin. Vasilyev across the field to Duzurasov. Vasilyev again. Brings it across. Big bid from Great Britain, but could not stop the pass making it. Dives to the floor. Anna Pustovaya keeps the disc alive for the Russians. Took a moment to collect her thoughts, and she stood up.
And that's the maturity of the Russians here. It's the, yes, I'm going to use several beats of the stall count. Oh, as it's jumped out of bounds, potentially.
Landed on the tape, he was out. And Tomikov on the sideline for Russia points to his teammate and says, no, you are out, you landed on the tape, let's not talk about it.
Perhaps too calm then.
Great spirit from the Russians. Tomikov had milked it, sorry, to the... As Tomikov calling it out, it was Durasov who jumped out of bounds. Perry now. Naden cutting underneath from the deep position, but great defensive poaching from Eremin. Nugent into the end zone, not quite. Turton has it now. Nugent picks himself up off the sand after that big throw. Naden trying to get herself available. Across the field to Nugent now. Great Britain looking tired out there, looking out of options into the end zone. And who's there? Who snags it out the sky? But Toli Vasilyev says no. And the weariness in Great Britain's legs towards the end of the point across the whole team. Nobody cutting.
That was such a shame, Tom. Really nice work from GB. Lots of really lovely low release backhands. If the other Russians, the only thing you can really say they can tighten up on defense is perhaps not letting quite so many of those out, getting that right palm low on the force.
Anna Pustovaya Across the end zone, Parshikov's the target. She just reels it in the back corner. Brilliant work from the Russian women, combining for that point, and they go within one of taking their place in the final and a chance at the gold medal here at the European Beach Ultimate Championships.
And we see on the field there is the shot of Tom Lees walking back towards the line. Tom Perry looking very apologetic, but just such a shame there for Great Britain. They really just ran out of gas there, but only, well, we're not even at the end of regulation time, Tom. 40 minutes into this game. Great Britain, a very young and athletic side, but it just shows not just the physical, but the absolute mental dominance of the Russians in this game. They didn't look tired one iota, and if you look at the rosters, they're pretty much even Stevens in terms of the number of bodies they brought here. In fact, I think, yeah, they are literally, in terms of bringing their gender divides as well, match for match, in terms of the number of legs available on the sideline to support and also offer that freshness. But the Russians here, first match point.
The Russians have got 12 points on the board, and that last one was only the second time that their pass count has got into double figures. So real efficiency, and that shows in how quickly we've got here. A throwaway from Pope, just a little bit too far ahead of Kantarovic.
Yeah, Kantarovic doing all of the work to get open under for Pope, which is what she was looking for, but a wee bit too far as the wind gusts up.
Pustovaya across to Terekov, cutting out of the end zone. If Malikova continues the run into the end zone, and Mchale apologetic, and so the foul's being called by Malinkov. Mchale almost calling on himself. He was running across and just blocked the path. So Malikova is going to bring it to the front of the end zone, and it's going to be a Russian disc at the front of the end zone.
Yeah, she signaled for the score, but it's not. Russia will retain possession, as you say, on the goal line. But if you're Mchale, you really do have to get up in that mix. A shame to see such a collision. I think perhaps as she was making the shaping of her cut, Anastasia Malikova, not really able to see Mchale coming. She might have heard him on a bit of a stiller day. We're now finally, Tom, starting to see the wind as a factor in the play here for these teams.
Well, this can't be a point because it's a foul in the end zone. It's not a strip in the end zone. If it's a strip in the end zone and it's uncontested, that's a point. Foul in the end zone comes to the front line. Even if she would have had a clear bid on this, I'm not sure if...
Well, her teammate behind, perhaps a wee bit distracted, did try and make the catch, completely isolated in that back right, near side corner for the cameras, and actually managed to bobble the disc into the sand. So perhaps a lucky break there for the Russians, but if Conor Mchale hadn't gotten in there, that would have been a score, I think, fairly securely.
So clarified exactly what was happening there. Pustovaya sends it across the field. Terekov. Pustovaya darting around, being covered well by Kat Pope. Still with the disc now. The 69 shirt, Sasha Pustovaya trying to find a dump pass out. Contact made by Pope, a foul call from Pustovaya. Uncontested, coming in on 0.
Well, that's what you have to do. Giving Pustovaya another 10 seconds on the disc isn't really a great idea, but you've really got to work hard if you're Kat Pope right now.
Into the end zone, and Malinkova brings down the final disc of the game. Russia absolutely dominant as they advance into the gold medal match. They'll face the victors in the game that's going on behind us, Germany versus Portugal. You can watch the scoreline from that on live.ebuc 2019, but no doubt about which of these two teams in the first semi-final for the mixed division is going through. Russia are the winners
of this mixed semi, yes, and GB just never really got a glimpse at it. They'll be playing later on today for the dirty gold, as it's known here on the sand, the bronze medal match, which is still would be a credit to their play, as I said, a young side, but my goodness, the discipline and determination from the Russians. That just roll of breaks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to end out that first half. And GB looked much better, more confident, credit to themselves that second half, but just really couldn't come up with the goods against the Russian. Looking at their earlier game, much the same story. The Russians pulled ahead early days, and then they just traded it out comfortably, just sat on the cushion. The rest of the game rode that magic carpet all the way out, and we'll see them in the gold match tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. We're bringing you much more action later today. Stay tuned. Next up, it's the Master Men's Bronze match, Tom. That should be a stormer of a game.
Oh, exciting stuff. All the coverage coming you as the party in Portimao continues. More action from the Algarve when you join us back here soon. From myself, Tom Stiles, alongside Hannah Pendlebury and the Ulti TV crew. Thank you very much for joining us, and we do hope you'll be back for more soon.
Ulti.tv.